Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Today's tale revolves around a millionaire who disappeared after a devastating fire, only to return as her doctor years later. A chance encounter will change both of their lives forever. Stay tuned, because what happens next is going to change everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Today's tale revolves around a millionaire who disappeared after a devastating fire, only to return as her doctor years later. A chance encounter will change both of their lives forever. Stay tuned, because what happens next is going to change everything. The next day, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of the previous evening. The awkwardness of sitting at the wrong table, meeting a stranger who wasn't Kevin, and the odd connection she had felt with him. She couldn't deny that something about Liam had left a mark on her. She was still unsure whether it was the confusion of the blind date or the easy conversation they'd shared, but she found herself thinking about him more than she should have. She went through the motions of her usual routine, working her shifts as a waitress, serving food with a smile, all while her mind wandered back to that night. It was only when her phone buzzed with a message from Jenny that her thoughts snapped back to reality. So how did it go? Was Kevin nice? The question made her sigh. She quickly typed back a response. Actually, I sat at the wrong table. It wasn't Kevin, but the guy I sat with was different. We talked for a while. He was really easy to talk to. She paused, then added, but I don't think I'll see him again. He was just some guy. Jenny's reply came almost instantly. Wait, what? You mean the guy wasn't Kevin, but you still had a good time? Girl, this is a plot twist. Who is this guy? Sarah smiled a little, knowing Jenny would probably be laughing at the absurdity of the situation. She quickly got back to work, but the memory of Liam lingered in her thoughts. Meanwhile, in a modern office high above the city streets, Liam sat at his desk, scrolling through emails. He had spent the night replaying the events of the previous evening, and a nagging feeling tugged at him. He hadn't planned on seeing her again, yet he found himself thinking about Sarah, about the way she had talked so openly, so honestly about her life. Most people in his world didn't speak so plainly. The thought of her still lingered, and even though he had tried to shake it, it wouldn't go away. He leaned back in his chair and sighed. Maybe it was just the randomness of the encounter, or maybe something more. After all, he had made the decision not to correct her when she mistook him for Kevin. It was a strange impulse, but something about her had felt different. He was just about to head out for lunch when his assistant, Claire, knocked on the door. Liam, your afternoon meetings are scheduled. But before you go, I need you to sign these documents. He nodded, grateful for the distraction. As he took the papers from her, he caught sight of his reflection in the glass window. The man staring back at him was someone who had built an empire, but he hardly recognized the person he had become. Over the years, his life had been all about numbers, profits, and deals. But in that moment, he realized something. It was the simple, genuine conversation he'd had with Sarah that left him feeling more fulfilled than any business deal ever had. After he finished his work, he found himself driving toward the same cafe where they had met. He didn't know why, but he was curious to see her again. Maybe he was hoping for another random encounter, or maybe he was just looking for a sign. As he walked into the cafe, he noticed Sarah behind the counter, taking orders and smiling at the customers. There was something about the way she moved, the way she interacted with people, that seemed so real and grounded. She didn't wear the polished exterior that many people in his world did. She seemed genuine. He hesitated for a moment, but then made his way to the counter. Sarah didn't recognize him at first, but when she looked up, her face softened in surprise. Liam, she said, her voice filled with a mix of surprise and confusion. He smiled, a little sheepish. Yeah, it's me. I know this is unexpected, but I thought I'd come by and say hi. I hope I didn't interrupt your shift. Sarah looked at him for a moment, clearly still unsure of why he was there. But then she smiled, and something in her eyes softened. No, not at all. It's just unexpected. Liam chuckled lightly. Yeah, I know, but I thought I'd take the chance. I was in the area and figured I'd stop by. They chatted for a while, this time with Sarah taking the lead in the conversation. As she spoke, Liam realized how much he admired her. She had such a lightness about her, an authenticity that was rare. They talked about everything, her dreams, her struggles, her plans for the future. She was open, honest, and without pretense. It was refreshing. After a while, Liam stood up. I don't want to take up too much of your time, he said. But I just wanted to say it was nice running into you yesterday. I'd like to get to know you better. Sarah hesitated, then smiled. I'd like that too, but I still have a lot of things to figure out. Liam nodded. I understand. No pressure. He gave her a friendly smile and walked out, but not without a feeling of hope. As Sarah watched him leave, she felt a sense of curiosity that hadn't been there before. She knew she should be focused on her own goals, but something about Liam made her wonder if there was more to life than just getting by. Maybe, just maybe, this encounter wasn't as random as it seemed. Stay tuned, because the next chapter in their story is just beginning. It had been a few days since Sarah saw Liam again at the cafe. Her life had returned to its usual rhythm, but she couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. The connection between them felt easy, comfortable, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like someone truly saw her. She had grown accustomed to being overlooked by the world, but Liam's attention had been different. He didn't judge her or try to impress her with stories of wealth or status. He just listened, genuinely, and for the first time, Sarah felt like she wasn't invisible. She pushed the thoughts to the back of her mind, focusing on her work, but it wasn't easy. The more she thought about Liam, the more she realized how much he had stirred something in her that she hadn't felt in years. Her dream of opening an art studio felt closer now, as though maybe it was possible to reach for something more than just surviving. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Jenny. So, what's going on with you and the mystery man? Sarah chuckled and quickly typed back, I saw him again. He came into the cafe yesterday. We talked a bit. He's different, Jenny. Not like the others. The reply came just as quickly. Oh, tell me everything. Sarah smiled, but didn't have the words to explain everything she was feeling. She wasn't sure what Liam wanted from her, or even what she wanted from him. But there was something about him that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, her life could be more than just a series of shifts and routines. Meanwhile, Liam was back at his office, trying to focus on his work, but his mind kept drifting to Sarah. After their brief meeting at the cafe, he couldn't stop thinking about her. It wasn't just the conversation, although it had been refreshing to talk to someone so open and real. It was something about the way she carried herself, the warmth she exuded even in the simplest moments. Liam's world had always been filled with business meetings, high-stakes deals, and endless deadlines. But with Sarah, everything felt simpler, lighter. He found himself wondering if it was possible to slow down for a change. A small part of him had even started to hope that maybe she could be the one to show him how. After the lunch rush, Liam found himself reaching for his phone. He hesitated for a moment before dialing Sarah's number. It wasn't a move he usually made. He was used to being the one pursued, not the one chasing, but something inside him told him that Sarah wasn't like the others. The phone rang for a few moments before Sarah answered, her voice warm but cautious. Hello. Hey, Sarah, it's Liam, he said, trying to sound casual. I know this might sound a little random, but I was wondering if you'd like to grab coffee sometime? Maybe talk a bit more? There was a brief pause on the other end before she responded. Sure. That sounds nice. A rush of relief washed over Liam. He had expected her to turn him down, but the fact that she agreed made him feel like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't as crazy as it seemed. They set a time to meet the following afternoon at a local coffee shop, a quiet spot that was worlds away from the high-end places Liam was usually accustomed to. The next day, Sarah arrived early, her heart racing in anticipation. She had told herself that it would just be another casual meeting, a chance to catch up with someone she'd met by chance. But as she waited for Liam to arrive, she couldn't deny the excitement building inside her. When he walked into the cafe, he was as effortlessly charming as she remembered. His smile was warm, and his presence seemed to fill the room, even though he was just one person. He spotted Sarah almost immediately and made his way over to her table. Hey, Sarah, he said with a grin, pulling out a chair. How's your day been? Good, just busy, she replied, smiling back. How about you? Liam sat down, and they both began chatting about their day, their lives, and everything in between. The conversation flowed effortlessly, with moments of laughter and shared stories. For Sarah, it felt like a small piece of normalcy in her otherwise chaotic life. For Liam, it was a chance to be someone other than the successful businessman everyone expected him to be. As the afternoon wore on, Sarah began to relax. She found herself talking more openly, sharing things she didn't normally discuss with anyone. Liam listened intently, offering insights and asking questions, making her feel heard and valued. By the time the sun began to set, they had talked for hours. It was a simple moment, yet it felt like something more, a moment of connection that neither of them had expected. As they stood to leave, Liam hesitated for a moment before speaking again. I'm glad we did this. I feel like we have a lot more in common than I thought. Sarah smiled, a little shy but genuinely happy. I agree. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm glad we talked. Liam smiled back. Me too. He gave her a small nod, the conversation coming to a natural pause. So, maybe we can do this again sometime? Sarah looked at him for a moment, considering the question. She had felt an undeniable connection, but part of her still hesitated. She wasn't sure where this was headed, but for once, she wasn't afraid to find out. Yeah, she said softly, her voice filled with hope. I'd like that. As they parted ways, neither of them knew exactly where this connection would lead, but both felt a sense of possibility in the air. Sarah had found something in Liam she wasn't expecting, someone who saw her, not as the struggling waitress she was, but as the person she could become. And for Liam, Sarah represented a world he had never truly understood, one full of warmth, honesty, and simplicity. Stay tuned for the next chapter of their journey, where new challenges and unexpected twists await. The days that followed their coffee date were filled with new feelings and questions. Sarah found herself thinking about Liam more often than she liked to admit. It wasn't just the way he listened to her, or the way he made her laugh. It was the genuine connection they had shared. She didn't know where it was going, but for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like she was worth more than the sum of her struggles. Liam, on the other hand, couldn't stop replaying their conversation in his head. It was easy to forget how different things could be when you were constantly surrounded by business deals and the expectations of others. With Sarah, he felt like he could simply be himself. After their meeting, Liam decided that he wanted to get to know her better, but not in a way that felt forced. He wanted to take it slow, give her the space she needed to figure things out too. But every time he thought about her, he couldn't help but feel that something about her was different. She wasn't looking for something from him. She was just herself. It was refreshing, but also unsettling in a way. He wasn't used to that kind of honesty. A week later, Liam found himself once again walking into the same cafe, this time without any grand plans. He hadn't texted Sarah to arrange anything. He just felt like it was the right moment to see her again. The bell on the door jingled as he entered, and there she was, standing behind the counter, just like before. She didn't see him at first, so he took a moment to watch her. There was something about the way she moved, the way she interacted with everyone around her. It wasn't flashy or showy, it was grounded, real. Sarah's presence felt like a calm in the middle of the storm. When she finally noticed him, her face lit up in recognition. Liam, hey, she called out, a smile instantly forming on her lips. He couldn't help but smile back. Hey, Sarah, he said, stepping forward. I didn't want to interrupt your shift, but I figured I'd grab a coffee and see how you're doing. She looked at him for a moment, considering, before nodding. Yeah, sure. I'm just getting ready to take a break. She motioned for him to sit at one of the empty tables near the window, and he followed her lead. As Sarah made her way to the counter to grab his coffee, Liam couldn't help but notice the way the light hit her hair, the way she walked with such ease. He didn't know why he was so drawn to her, but he couldn't ignore it. As Sarah returned with the coffee, they settled into a conversation, this time more relaxed than before. The cafe was quiet, the afternoon sun streaming in, casting a warm glow over the room. They talked about everything, her love for art, his growing distaste for the high-paced corporate world he lived in, and everything in between. They talked like old friends, and for Sarah, it was a rare feeling. She had always kept her guard up, afraid to let anyone get too close. But with Liam, she didn't feel that way. He didn't want anything from her except her time, and that felt like a gift she hadn't been given in years. You know, Sarah said, stirring her coffee thoughtfully, I've been thinking a lot about my art lately. I want to open a studio someday. But, I don't know, sometimes it feels like it's just a dream. Liam leaned forward, his expression softening as he listened. I think you could do it, he said sincerely. You're passionate about it, and you've got the drive. You just need to believe in yourself more. Sarah looked at him, her heart swelling at his words. For a moment, she felt like maybe she wasn't just a waitress, stuck in a rut. Maybe there was more for her. They spent the next hour talking, laughing, and getting to know each other better. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. As they finished their coffee, Liam stood up, a smile on his face. I have to get going, but I'm glad we did this again. I really enjoy our conversations. Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth inside that she hadn't felt in a while. Me too, she said. Thanks for coming by, Liam. He nodded, his eyes lingering on her for a moment before he turned to leave. But before he stepped out of the door, he paused and turned back. I'd like to see you again. Maybe we could do this more often. Sarah hesitated, her heart beating faster than she expected. She had to be careful. She had her dreams, and she didn't want anyone to stand in the way of them. But something told her that Liam wasn't like the others. Yeah, she said, her voice soft but confident. I'd like that too. As he walked out the door, Sarah couldn't help but feel like she was at the beginning of something new. She wasn't sure where it would lead, but she knew that this was a chance she couldn't ignore. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like maybe, just maybe, life was about to take her in a new direction. Stay tuned, because the next chapter of their story is about to get even more exciting. The days after their last meeting passed in a blur for Sarah. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam. Each time she caught herself smiling at a memory of their coffee date, she quickly tried to push it away. She had too many things to focus on: her job, her bills, her dream of opening an art studio that still seemed far away. But every time she thought of Liam, the thought of something bigger, something better, seemed possible. He was different. She wasn't sure if he was aware of the effect he had on her, but it wasn't just his charm or the way he made her feel special. It was his belief in her art, in her potential. He had given her a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could leave her struggles behind. A week passed without a message or call from him, and Sarah began to question if he was just being polite when he said he wanted to see her again. Maybe he was like all the other rich men, too busy, too focused on their own lives to bother with someone like her. It wasn't until a rainy Friday afternoon that Sarah got a message from Liam. Hey Sarah, I know it's been a while, but I was thinking of you. If you're free this weekend, I'd love to take you out for dinner. No strings attached, just two people enjoying a meal together. Let me know what you think. She stared at the message for a while, unsure of what to do. Her mind raced with thoughts. Was this another one of those offers she should turn down? But then she realized, for the first time in a while, she didn't want to turn it down. She didn't want to miss the chance to see where this could go. She typed a quick reply. That sounds nice. I'd love to. Sarah had to admit, she was excited. She hadn't been on a proper date in what felt like forever. She picked out a simple, but elegant outfit, a little nicer than what she would usually wear to work, but not too fancy. When Saturday evening came, she was a little nervous, but the thought of seeing Liam again made her feel more alive than she had in a long time. When they met at the restaurant, Liam greeted her with a warm smile, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. He looked just as handsome as he did the first time they met, but this time, there was something different in his expression. He looked happy to see her, like he had been waiting for this moment. You look amazing, Liam said, his voice sincere. Sarah blushed, grateful for the compliment. Thank you. You look great too. He led her to their table, and they settled into their seats. The conversation flowed naturally, just like it had before. They talked about everything and nothing: work, family, dreams, fears. It was easy, comfortable, and there was no pressure. They were just two people getting to know each other. As the evening wore on, Sarah found herself laughing more than she had in months. Liam's sense of humor, his thoughtful remarks, and the way he paid attention to everything she said made her feel like she was the only person in the room. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, but it felt good. They shared a dessert, and after a while, Liam leaned back in his chair and looked at Sarah. I know we've only known each other for a short time, but I feel like there's something real here. Something worth exploring, he said, his voice quieter now. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? She didn't want to rush things, but at the same time, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him. I feel the same way, she admitted, her voice soft but steady. I don't know where this is going, but I like where we are right now. Liam smiled, his eyes warm and reassuring. Me too, he said. Let's take it one step at a time. No expectations, just seeing where it goes. Sarah smiled back, feeling a sense of relief. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't rushing towards something or running away from anything. She was simply enjoying the moment. After dinner, they walked outside together, the cool night air wrapping around them. They paused for a moment on the sidewalk, both of them quiet, but comfortable in the silence. Liam looked at Sarah, his gaze soft and genuine. I'm glad you came tonight, he said. I really enjoy spending time with you. I'm glad I came too, Sarah replied, smiling up at him. This feels nice. Yeah, it does, Liam agreed, taking a step closer. I think we're just getting started. As he walked her to her car, Sarah felt a sense of warmth in her chest. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe it was okay to let go of the past and embrace whatever might come next. Liam had given her hope, and in that moment, Sarah realized she was ready to take a chance on herself, on her dreams, and maybe even on him. Stay tuned, because the next chapter is where their journey truly begins. The following week unfolded in a way neither of them expected. After their dinner together, something subtle but undeniable had shifted between Sarah and Liam. They were no longer two strangers sharing accidental moments. They were becoming something more, something neither of them knew how to define yet. But with every text, every shared smile, and every lingering moment, their connection grew stronger. Sarah found herself waking up each morning with a sense of anticipation she had not felt in years. Her life had always revolved around survival, paying rent, covering bills, working long hours at the cafe. But now, there was a softness to her days, a quiet excitement that followed her like a shadow. Liam had carved his way into her thoughts, whether she wanted him there or not. Meanwhile, Liam felt something he had not felt in a very long time: peace. He had spent years building his company, focusing on nothing but numbers, deadlines, and expectations. His life had been measured by achievements and deals, not by genuine moments or people who cared about him beyond his success. But with Sarah, things were different. She grounded him. She made him want to slow down, breathe, and rediscover who he was outside of his career. He found himself looking forward to the end of each day, just so he could talk to her. One evening, Liam sent a message asking if she wanted to meet at the small park near her apartment. Sarah agreed, nervous and excited all at once. When she arrived, the sun was just beginning to set, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and pink. Liam was already there, sitting on a bench, watching the colors shift in the distance. When he saw her approach, he stood and smiled. Hey, Sarah, he said softly, his voice carrying a warmth that immediately put her at ease. I am glad you came. She sat beside him, her heart beating a little faster than usual. I am glad too, she replied, turning her gaze toward the fading sunlight. For a few moments, they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the soft rustling of leaves and distant laughter from children playing nearby. It felt peaceful, simple, and surprisingly intimate. I wanted to talk to you, Liam said after a while, his voice quiet but steady. Sarah turned toward him, curious. About what? Liam hesitated, searching for the right words. About us. About whatever this is becoming. Sarah's breath caught for a moment. She felt her heart flutter with anticipation and fear. I know we are taking things slow, Liam continued, and I do not want to rush you or make you feel pressured. But I want to be honest. You have become important to me, Sarah. More important than I expected. His admission sent a wave of warmth through her. She had been afraid he saw her as just another passing moment in his busy life, someone who would eventually fade into the background. But hearing that she mattered to him made her feel seen. I feel something too, Sarah said quietly, her voice steady despite her nerves. I do not know what it means yet, but I know it is something real. Liam smiled gently, relief softening his features. That is all I needed to hear. As the sky darkened, Liam reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. He handed it to her. I wanted to give you this, he said. No pressure. No expectations. Just something to show you I believe in you. Confused, Sarah opened the envelope. Inside was a brochure for a local art workshop, along with a fully paid registration receipt. She looked up at Liam, her eyes wide. Liam, what is this? It is a start, he said softly. You told me about your dream of opening an art studio. I know it feels far away, but this workshop is one step closer. I want you to chase that dream, Sarah. I want you to believe in yourself the way I believe in you. Emotion tightened her throat. No one had ever supported her dreams so genuinely. No one had ever invested in her without asking for anything in return. Liam, this is too much, she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. It is not, he replied gently. You deserve this. Overwhelmed, Sarah looked at him, her heart full. Thank you. Really, I do not know what to say. You do not have to say anything, Liam said with a warm smile. Just promise me you will go. You owe yourself that much. For the first time in years, Sarah felt hope. Real, tangible hope. Maybe her dream was not impossible after all. Maybe, with someone like Liam by her side, she could finally reach for something greater than survival. As the evening drew to a close, they walked slowly toward her apartment, their hands brushing lightly between them, not quite touching, but close enough to know the spark was real. When they finally reached her door, Liam paused, looking into her eyes with a sincerity that made her heart ache. Whatever happens next, he said quietly, I want you to know that I am here. I am not going anywhere. Sarah felt her breath catch as she nodded. I believe you. And for the first time in a long time, she truly did. Stay tuned, because the next chapter of their journey will bring challenges neither of them saw coming. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions for Sarah. She felt as though she were finally living her life. Not just surviving, but truly living. The workshop Liam had signed her up for was everything she had dreamed of, and more. It was the first step toward her goal of opening an art studio, and she was determined to make the most of it. Every day after her shifts at the cafe, she would attend the classes, learning new techniques, meeting other artists, and slowly building the confidence she had always lacked. Liam was there, too, in his quiet way, supporting her every step of the way. He never pushed her, never tried to take over her dream. He simply offered encouragement, and most importantly, belief. He believed in her, and that belief was what kept her going. But despite the excitement of pursuing her passion, there was a nagging feeling in Sarah's chest, a fear she hadn't fully faced. She had spent so much time focused on surviving, on making ends meet, that the idea of opening an art studio had always seemed like a distant fantasy. Now that it was becoming a reality, she couldn't shake the fear that maybe she wasn't enough to make it happen. She didn't know how to explain this fear to Liam, afraid that if she did, he would think she didn't appreciate his help. But Liam wasn't like other people. He understood more than she realized. One afternoon, after Sarah had spent a long day at the workshop, she received a message from Liam. I'm thinking about taking a break this weekend. Maybe we can go somewhere. Just you and me. Sarah smiled at the message. It had been weeks since they had spent time outside of their regular routines, and she was eager for a break. She quickly replied, That sounds perfect. Where are we going? Liam responded with a simple suggestion. I thought we could go to the lake. Just a quiet day to relax and enjoy the scenery. Sarah agreed without hesitation. The thought of spending a day away from everything, just being with Liam, was exactly what she needed. The weekend arrived, and they made their way to the lake. It was a peaceful, serene place. The water shimmered in the sunlight, and the air was filled with the soft rustling of trees and the distant calls of birds. They walked along the shore, side by side, in comfortable silence. Liam glanced over at Sarah and smiled. I thought you might like it here. It's a place where you can just breathe. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the world slip away, if only for a moment. It's perfect, she said, looking out at the water. I didn't realize how much I needed this. They found a quiet spot under a large oak tree and sat down, letting the peaceful atmosphere wash over them. Liam reached into his bag and pulled out 2 sandwiches, handing one to Sarah. As they ate, they talked about everything and nothing, their favorite books, their childhood memories, and their plans for the future. Sarah felt herself opening up in ways she hadn't before. She told Liam about her fears, about how she wasn't sure if she was ready to make her dream come true, about how she feared she would fail before she even started. Liam listened carefully, never interrupting, just offering quiet support. When she finished speaking, he took a deep breath and looked at her with those gentle eyes of his. Sarah, I know it feels overwhelming, but you have something so many people don't have. You have the courage to start. And that is the hardest part. Everything else will fall into place. Sarah met his gaze, the sincerity in his words touching her deeply. She had always been afraid of taking risks, of trying and failing. But with Liam by her side, she felt like maybe it was worth it. Maybe, just maybe, she could do it. As the day wore on, they walked around the lake, and for the first time in a long time, Sarah allowed herself to imagine a future beyond just surviving. She pictured herself in a small art studio, surrounded by her work, sharing her passion with others. She wasn't there yet, but for the first time, it didn't seem impossible. The fear was still there, but it didn't feel as heavy as it once had. She had Liam's support, and for now, that was enough. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Sarah turned to Liam. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. Liam smiled, a soft, reassuring smile. You don't have to thank me. I believe in you, Sarah. You'll get there. They sat in silence for a few more minutes, watching the sunset, knowing that whatever happened next, they would face it together. Stay tuned, because the next chapter in their journey is just around the corner. The weeks that followed were filled with growth and change. Sarah threw herself into the art workshop, more determined than ever to build the life she had always dreamed of. With each passing day, she found herself learning not just about her craft, but about herself. The fears that had once held her back seemed to fade, replaced by a newfound confidence. Liam was there every step of the way, supporting her with quiet words of encouragement and his unwavering belief in her abilities. But even with all the progress she had made, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Despite the positive changes in her life, she still didn't feel completely at ease. There was always a nagging thought in the back of her mind. What would happen if her dream didn't work out? What if she failed? And even though Liam had been a steady presence, his belief in her was not enough to silence her doubts. One evening, after a long day at the workshop, Sarah found herself walking alone through the park where they had spent that peaceful day together by the lake. The memories of that day came rushing back, the quiet conversation, the way Liam had believed in her when no one else had. But now, as she stood by the water, the weight of uncertainty settled heavily on her chest. What if she wasn't ready? What if she wasn't enough? She closed her eyes, trying to steady her breath, but the thoughts swirled in her mind. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Liam. Hey, I've been thinking about you. I know things have been going well, but I feel like there's something you're not telling me. You don't have to say anything if you're not ready, but I want you to know I'm here, no matter what. Sarah stared at the message, the words cutting through the walls she had built up inside. She had never been good at opening up, especially about her fears. But something about Liam's message made her realize she couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. She took a deep breath and typed out her response. I'm scared, Liam. I'm scared of failing. I'm scared that I'm not enough to make my dreams come true. And I don't know how to deal with that. Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed send. The message felt like a confession, an admission of everything she had been hiding. But when Liam's reply came, it was exactly what she needed to hear. You are more than enough, Sarah. The fact that you're willing to try, that you're putting in the work, is more than enough. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Sarah read the message over and over, the reassurance sinking in with each word. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe it. Maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe she didn't have all the answers. But with Liam's support, she could take the next step. The next day, Sarah returned to the workshop with renewed determination. She threw herself into her art with a passion she hadn't felt before. She was no longer working just to survive. She was working for something more, for the life she wanted, for the dreams that were now within her reach. That afternoon, when Liam showed up at the workshop to check on her progress, he found Sarah in the middle of a painting she had started just that morning. The colors were bold, the strokes confident. She smiled when she saw him. I'm not there yet, she said, but I'm getting closer. Liam walked over to her, admiring the work she had done. It's incredible, Sarah. You're more than capable of making your dreams come true. She looked at him, the sincerity in his eyes warming her heart. Thank you, she said softly. I don't think I could do this without you. Liam smiled, stepping back and giving her space to work. You're doing this on your own, Sarah? I'm just here to support you. The words felt like a weight lifting from her shoulders. For the first time, she truly believed it. She was capable. She was enough. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah's art blossomed, and so did her confidence. She had a vision, and with each brushstroke, she was bringing it closer to life. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. But now, with Liam's support and her own determination, she felt ready to face whatever came next. Stay tuned, because Sarah's journey is far from over, and the challenges ahead will push her further than she ever expected. The months that followed were a testament to Sarah's growth. She poured her heart into her art, each piece reflecting not just her skill, but her journey. Her workshop was slowly becoming a place of hope, a place where she was no longer just surviving, but thriving. And Liam was there, by her side, every step of the way. His quiet support, his unwavering belief in her, had helped her see something in herself she had never seen before. She was capable. She was enough. Sarah's dream of opening her own art studio was no longer a distant fantasy. It was becoming a reality. She found a small, cozy space in the heart of the city, a perfect spot to showcase her work and invite others into her world of art. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The day she signed the lease, Sarah could hardly contain her excitement. She immediately texted Liam. It's official. I got the space. His response came almost instantly. I knew you could do it. I'm so proud of you. Those words meant the world to her. She had come so far, and it was thanks to her own hard work and Liam's belief in her. But as she stood in the empty space, holding the key to her new future, Sarah couldn't help but feel a little nervous. She wasn't done yet. There was still so much to do, so much to figure out. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She had Liam, she had her dream, and she had the courage to make it all happen. The grand opening of her studio was a few weeks later, and Liam was there, of course, right by her side. The place was filled with people, friends, family, art lovers, and as Sarah stood at the front, thanking everyone for their support, she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with gratitude. This was her moment. She had built this from the ground up, and now she was sharing it with the world. Liam, standing at the back of the room, watched her with a smile. He had seen her grow, seen her struggle, and now, he was watching her shine. She had always been capable, but now she knew it too. After the opening, as the crowd began to thin out, Liam walked up to Sarah. He took her hands in his gaze soft. I'm so proud of you, he said quietly. Sarah smiled, feeling a wave of warmth spread through her. I couldn't have done it without you. Liam shook his head. No, Sarah. You did this. I just helped you believe in yourself. She looked up at him, her heart swelling with emotion. For the first time, she realized how much she had come to rely on him, not just as a supporter of her dream, but as someone who had become so important in her life. I'm ready for whatever comes next, she said softly. With you by my side, I feel like I can do anything. Liam smiled, pulling her into a gentle embrace. And I'll be here, every step of the way. As they stood there, surrounded by the walls of her new studio, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. She had built something beautiful, and with Liam's support, she was ready to keep building. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. She wasn't alone anymore. Together, they were going to make her dreams come true. And that was all she needed. Thank you for following Sarah's journey. Stay tuned for more stories about dreams, love, and finding the courage to chase after what truly matters.